do. I'm just happy it all worked out, even though I don't have my PowerPoint, but I have, if you could see what the Kennesaw Hilton True has allowed me to do to their lobby so that I can have all my notes. Pretty funny.
Okay. All right, we'll let some more people join in. Megan, are people having trouble getting in?
I hope not. I mean, it's different than the meetings because the webinar is just different. I think we're okay.
Okay, well, we are going to get started. All right. Hi, I'm Joanna Roach. I'm with GSN Planet. Megan is in the control room working all of our magic on the Zooming. And we are really happy today to have Michael Tompkins of Hutchinson Consulting talk to us on the topic of reorganization, which I know you've been going through a lot of lately with your big move that you've made. And I'm excited to chat with you today. I know that today's been a little bit of a challenge for you with some obstacles put in your way, but it's a true lesson in resiliency, which I'm sure you'll share with our audience. So I just wanted to say welcome. Thank you to Hutchinson for doing this with us, and happy to have you today.
Thank you. And yeah, you know, last night, Joanna, I posted on Facebook that I was ready for the day of reckoning, because I think this year in particular for all of us has been, oh, we just have to get through the spring. Oh, we just have to get through the summer. And, you know, and then it's been, oh, well, maybe it's just the election. And now it's like, let's just get through the year, right? And so not that I've been wishing my year away, but today I went for allergy shots. On the way home from the allergy shots, my car got a flat tire, and I could not make it back home to do this show. And therefore, I do have a PowerPoint that we'll be sharing with the GSN network afterward that I will get to everybody. But what I asked for in my post from Facebook was just a little bit more love and a little bit more kindness. And so today, as I was on the side of the road and Mercedes-Benz couldn't show up for 2 or 3 hours and AAA couldn't show up for 2 or 3 hours, some kind gentleman just pulled off the road in very, very dangerous traffic and helped me change my tire myself. And then I called my business partner, Carol Stratford, because, you know, she's in marketing and PR, and they're resilient enough in everything and can always find something on the fly. And she said, there is a hotel, and it's called True by Hilton in Kennesaw, Georgia. And they will host you in their lobby and give you access to internet and allow you to do your show. And so Alexis, the manager here, hooked me up, and it inspired me for my love of hospitality that people here at the Hilton True have opened their doors for me to be able to do this with all of you today.
Oh, so nice to hear. We're so grateful to the Hilton for doing that. Thank you.
So am I. So am I.
So tell us a little bit about your topic of reorganization. Like, talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, you know, reorganization is an overhaul to a company's management and business operations with the aim of restoring it back to profitability or bringing it to profitability. That's a simple definition of it. But in terms of where we're at now in post-COVID, and even looking back to, you know, the Great Recession, of what good things were done back then, what did we learn and what can we learn in moving forward to be able to maximize the new space that we're working with, and perhaps a reorganized team. And so, you know, when doing that, I decided I would take a look at some of the feedback that I've found on various resources to be able to see where our industry is right now. So I did some polling with people, and I talked to people from Green Spa and iSpa and some other local places. But what I found really great was the snapshot survey from iSpa that was done back in August. And at that time, they said that 35% of staff had been furloughed from everybody surveyed. An additional 34% had laid off staff. And there was only about 18% who kept all of their full-time staff. And if you look at those results, you'll see most of those 18% were day spa, local day spa, because it makes sense. People are going local for services. Nobody's traveling like they used to. And now that places are starting to reopen, and some of these things that I'll be talking about today on how to, have a successful reorganization, from things I've learned as a CEO of Miraval during the Great Recession, that can hopefully carry people forward. I know people have plans, but I've got some good ideas here that could help. But 55% of people have said that their maximum occupancy is now 55%. So if you're only seeing a little bit more than half of your guests, and you have additional turn times because you have to clean the spaces, it makes it a little bit more difficult to become profitable. And so business reorganization is necessary. And so, some of the other data that it showed was that hiring therapists is still really difficult. But what some spas are doing, especially on the local level, is when they're interviewing massage therapists for positions, they're also asking them, can you bring a client list with you? And I think that's really smart, because I don't think that we've asked massage therapists that historically. We haven't asked them, who can you bring in locally? Because that is then generating more business for you, for the spa. And so asking the therapist that one question, I think it can be really important. One of the things that people are also seeing out there in the industry, that we're seeing at Hutchinson Consulting too, is that therapists are ghosting in interviews. And not just therapists, but also managers. And so when you think, geez, this is a time where if people need a job, they're going to be responsible and they're going to go to the interviews as requested, you'd be surprised. It's really shocking. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff happening in people's lives. People are short of money. People are nervous about their bills. People are having to educate their children and find childcare for them. And so ghosting, while it doesn't sound professional, and it's something that we should never do, it is happening. On the positive side, demand is still high. People are missing time. There's articles out recently in Spa Business and a number of other periodicals. It all says that people want that touch. The difference between most people who are listening and me is that I am traveling, and I have been traveling probably for the last 3 or 4 months. And while I've been driving a lot between Missouri and Atlanta because I'm moving, I'm also going to spas. And I'm going to spas because it's our lifeblood, and it's the core of my business. And so I was able to go to Las Vegas recently, and I had a great spa experience there. I've had a variety of spa experiences from St. Louis to Atlanta, including 2 here in Atlanta this week. And last weekend, I was fortunate enough to go to Tampa and go to the Hard Rock Cafe Spa there. And I thought that, it was going to be, everything would be so different in Florida, because they, what we've all been hearing on the news is they're sort of like go wild. And what I found was their safety standards were impeccable. It was magnificent. And so, across the board, I just want to say that as someone who has been in this industry for more than 25 years, I am so proud of the work that people are doing and taking the safety standards that have been put out there and making sure that they're implemented in our spas. I've never felt safer. I've never felt more comfortable. I've never felt more cared for in a touch environment where I wasn't worried. And we have to get that message out, and we have to make sure that we reiterate that to our team. So the big concern is safety standards, but that's not the discussion today. The discussion today is around reorganization strategy, reorganization. So that's the feedback that I've seen on the iSpa information from their surveys. I'm not sure if you have any that you wanted to add, Joanna, or things that you might have seen.
In terms of the cleanliness piece of the COVID, or what's happening about people returning to travel, I think that, you know, we've just issued our COVID sustainability guidelines and gotten really good feedback on that. And I think that those guidelines are really just a way for folks to filter decisions that they are making around products that they might need to incorporate into the spa post-COVID. Because what we have been getting a lot of feedback about is, you know, the waste generated from individually wrapped plastics and from PPE.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. And in terms of reorganization, I think that spas can take a good look at how they're managing those two things and really think about how they're using products responsibly. Because not only is it an expense, but it generates a lot of waste that can also become an expense to get rid of.
Exactly. You know, that's one of the things that I liked about my Florida spa experience that I had. When I went into the locker room, the attendant, who was very caring, asked me what size what size robe I would like and what size slippers that I would like. But then he said, you know, Mr. Tompkins, we would normally have a number of different amenities set up here in the locker room, but we're trying to limit people touching things. And so if you want shampoo or amenities for your shower, if you want a bottle of water or a piece of fruit, I can get it for you, but you're not going to find it readily available. So please ask for those things. And so waste has shrunk dramatically. I mean, just the fact that you have to ask for an amenity, I think is actually a good thing. And I didn't feel that I was slighted in any way. I actually felt like they were trying to be more safe for my benefit.
Right.
So, you know, from a green perspective, I liked it. Although I hear you on the mini bottles. I know that's an issue that we're tackling. So let's talk a little bit about reorganization. You know, when businesses look, you know, and I always think with my entrepreneurial mind, I'm a member of Entrepreneurs Organization, and I love that because it puts me in a different mindset around how to think big picture in operating a business. And then not only to think big picture, but how are you going to still deliver to your guests in a way that is profitable with probably a smaller team. And so the first thing you have to do is set up a strategy, a reorganization strategy that will thrive and survive. And so what I always have used, in actually since my days at Canyon Ranch with Joanna, is a mentality shift that you have to get into all of your staff and management team, everyone who works for your company. And that's these three things. And now this is barring the personal things that you need to take care of for yourself. But when you come to work, there's three things that every person in your organization needs to think about. The first is, my business comes first. Obviously, the guest has always come first. Now it's safety and the safety of the guest and you. But your business comes first. So every team member has to think that. Because if the business doesn't survive, then the job doesn't survive. And they won't have a job. So the business comes first. The second for the survive and thrive is my team comes second. So the business comes first, the team comes second. What I've always found is when you're in really tough times and you've got a tight team, they're looking out for somebody else. They're recommending that you buy something in retail. They're recommending that you try somebody else's service who might be in the spa. All of these things that are critical that sometimes we let fall to the wayside because we're so busy. Well, now it's imperative for the business to survive. And of course, the third thing for the business to survive and thrive is my needs. My needs come last. So the business comes first, the team comes second, my needs come last. If you get those things down pat, you know, I think that you're set up so that when you go to execute this reorganization, it's going to be more apt to survive than before. And I think that in the end, you'll have a greater team that you have, particularly if you're celebrating successes. So, you know, local word of mouth is everything, especially now. because people are not able to travel, they're not flying to places. I think the flights are picking up. I'm seeing it in the airport, but there's still only, there's still 1/3 of the plane empty or more. But people are really doing the hyper local thing. Where I live in my town in Georgia, there's one local restaurant that's really great. And if you don't have a reservation now, you're not getting in because they only have a certain amount of seats and people still want to go and have a life. And so that piece is imperative now, is that to be hyper local. The staff should become the exact ambassadors for your brand. So when you have those team meetings, you have to remind them, go out and talk about what you do at work, go out and talk about the spas and the things that you have going on so that they know that you're there. I'm working at a great place. I'm still employed. My job is valuing me. They want you to come in as a guest. Our safety standards are excellent. Send them to farmers markets. Ask them to do booths at places that are local that people are going to. I know my farmers market in St. Louis, I'm there the other day, with thousands of people. And so, you think about, if you had a table there with information from your spa and you had your therapist there conveying what they're doing with their brand, with your brand, and saying, I'm working, I have a job, come visit me. We're a spa right in your neighborhood, we're a spa right in your town. These are things that are going to be imperative for survival. Mm-hmm. So essentially, there are 6 key points when thinking about reorganizing the spa. And the first is to set that strategy. Setting the strategy really involves eliminating fear from your team. And so, one of the things that people go through oftentimes is they get caught in their anxiety and it can become panic. So they don't know how they're getting childcare. They don't know how they're going to get their child to do their education online and who's going to help them out with that. Especially if you have a 6 or 7-year-old. I mean, I have recently been at a friend's house that has that. God, is that hard? And then, how are they going to come to work and show up on time? And are they going to catch a virus that, and while this might seem dramatic, it is true, they could die from it. And are they going to get that from one of their guests? And all these are real, honest fears. And so for people who are looking at reorganization, when you talk about reorganization, you're talking about eliminating positions or reassigning people from their current positions into new positions. And it's fear on top of not a little bit of fear like in this cup, it's fear in a wheelbarrow. And we have to be able to manage that fear for our team. So, one of the things that is imperative is that people really create a safety zone for their employees and their guest event. And that's not always the easiest, but it's the most important. The second is allocating resources. You have to make sure that you can adequately do your job to the best of your ability and the job of the people who work for you to the best of their ability without causing more stress to them or the guests. So you want everything seamless. And allocating those resources becomes really, really important because otherwise you're going to have pressure points or you're going to be poking holes and trying to fill the holes that are coming through with your finger, and it's impossible. Once you have done those 2 things in your plan for your strategy, you also have to think about, is there cross-function that could happen or cross-department skill sets that could happen? So could my front desk staff also work the locker room or take somebody to the locker room? Could my locker room attendant also take care of the pool? And somebody who is a server in the dining room come down to the spa and restock towels? I mean, when the staff is down, can they go to the laundry, help bring the robes and help fold the laundry for the laundry staff? It really becomes, an effort of what is the most efficient and effective way to get something done for your dollar. And every single dollar counts. I remember, Joanna, when we were back in the Berkshires after 9/11. And it was, you know, while most places shrunk, Canyon Ranch in the Berkshires, because of proximity to Boston and New York, we were slammed busy. But regardless, we were trying to make up for the losses that were happening at the time on the West Coast. And so I remember our management and leadership team saying, if you're coming to work, bring a coffee cup. Don't use one of these throwaways.
Right.
And that's a green thing, too. You know, you can spin it in so many different ways, but this cup might cost 4 cents. And while 4 cents doesn't seem like a lot, 4 cents times, you know, 150 staff members times 3 times a day, plus guests and all of that going on, it really adds up to a lot of money. And so making sure that, you know, you use cross-functioning and cross-departments to save on resources, I think is important. And finally, design for the future, because we're going to come out of this. That's the good thing. People are already coming to us because they need touch. They need the sense of normalcy back in their lives. I know a lot of people who want to get their hair done, want to get their nails done. I still remember my first haircut post-quarantine.
Right.
I mean, that was a big thing for me, and I'm sure a big thing for many. And so, you know, designing for the future is important, but it's not the design for the future that you and I are used to. The design for the future involves more tech, and tech is coming. And how do you implement some of these things and things that are not necessarily no touch, but low touch? So, for example, salt rooms, which, you know, most people have gone to, not everyone has. And I see them now going into day spas because they know that they're germ-free for the most part, and that people can go in them in an experience in single or double. And if you don't have a salt room in your spa right now, it might not be, and you might not have the money to invest, you may be able to show a return of investment on that that's pretty lucrative. And so looking for how you can design for the future now is super, super important, because when we come out of this, people aren't going to be looking for the spa stuff that was 2 years ago. They're going to be looking for what's the latest and greatest.
Right.
And
No,
I think
I
that's
totally agree.
important.
Yeah.
After you set your strategy, you really want to take a look at your resources. And it already has a word in there that is oftentimes not synonymous with being your friend, which is the unfortunate thing, and it's one of those black eyes that resources has. But when you look at your resources, the very first thing you want to do is go to your human resources department, because this is the time you need to make them your friend. This is when you have to identify who your resources are and how you're going to adjust them, and then how you're going to move forward with what you're left with. And a lot of people who have already done this are realizing now, as things are opening, what am I left with and where are my gaps? And the one person that you're going to need during this whole time is your human resource manager or director. So the first thing that you have to do when you're looking at your resources is to identify the strengths and weaknesses in your current organizational structure. And so where am I weak? Am I low on therapists? Do I not have enough therapists who can do multiple modalities? Who can do multiple modalities and what are they great at? Who are the people who are brand enhancing? I don't want to lose Joanna because she's the best massage therapist I have. All of those things are critical when you're looking at your resources. You know, Michael might not be the best massage therapist, but he sure can sell the most retail product, which gives us the most flow through to the bottom line. Whatever it might be, this is what the way you need to be thinking when you think about looking at who are your resources in your organization of the people that you're going to be managing. And then once you do that, you really need to sit down and put some structure to it and create a new org chart. Now, we all know what those org charts look like. But what we don't know is the gaps that are in those org charts. The human resources team doesn't know it. You might not know it. Your assistant director, if you're lucky enough to have one, might not know it. Your supervisors might not know it. what I found during the Great Recession was that oftentimes my locker room attendants knew every single glitch and mistake that happened in the spa, right down to the tiniest minutia. And so this is a tip that I would give every single manager, every single general manager running a hotel or a spa, anyone who is a spa owner. Do an anonymous survey to your staff and get feedback. Where are the gaps happening? Where are the problems in the organization? How can we improve? All of these things, and make it anonymous and let them know that their name is not going to be tracked and all of those sorts of things, so that you can get as much information as possible when you go to create your next org chart. The other thing that you have to look at beyond the nuances of the staff that you absolutely want to keep is, are there employment contracts out there that you need to be aware of? And what are breaking those employment contracts? What does that have to do with one thing or the other, with not only how I operate, but how it might look like from an unemployment perspective or an employment law perspective? Seniority versus talent. And that's a big one, because I totally respect when a therapist has put in 20 years at your organization. But what happens if they only do deep tissue or only do general massage, or standard massage? But then you have somebody who may have been there for 3 years and they do 16 different modalities. I mean, these are nuances that we have to think of when we're reorganizing, and you have to have valid reasons in state laws in order to say that this is why the person with seniority wasn't kept, and this is why I moved forward with this talent. And then finally, of course, you have to think, some people have to think about union and non-union roles. And so there's a lot to think about when it comes to resetting your org chart. But the thing that is most helpful is getting that anonymous survey, so you get the answers from the bottom up. Joe, I don't know, do you think I forgot anything in there in terms of looking at an org chart or reorganizing from the resource perspective?
No, and one word keeps coming to me, and it's versatility. And I think that we were fortunately well trained in that, right? That you have to be able to wear a variety of hats in your role, because you have to be able to anticipate what's going to happen next. And we are definitely in that time.
Yeah, we definitely are in that time. I've given up the word pivot because I hate it so much, because I pivoted so much. I felt like a politic. I'm using adjustment now, and for some reason it feels softer.
Okay.
So the third part of reorganization, and we're halfway through, and that's good because we're about halfway through this webinar, is designing for a new organization. And so designing for a new organization sounds like fun, but it's not. This is the details piece. And this is not something I want to do. This is something that my business partners do well, thankfully, but I don't have to, but I know where my weaknesses are. And that is, you have to take that org chart that you've just created and create direct reporting lines. So people need to know in an organization, if we've been restructured, who am I reporting to? Who's in charge of me? Who am I going to get my information from? And who are they getting their information from? So reporting lines, whether they're solid or dotted, are hugely important from every aspect of every position in your organization. And then, once you've looked at that, you need to look at the skill sets and the experience of each of the people who remain, so that when there are responsibilities within your new job descriptions. Now, there's one that I hate, because you're going to have to look at every single job description and find out, are there duties that have changed? Somebody who used to be just in charge of and I don't want to say used to be only in charge of the spa desk, now also in charge of the locker room. Well, if that's the case, then you need to add that to their job description. So all of the job descriptions need to be looked at. And so that skill set and experience of who you have on your team that's within your org chart, who knows best, may be the person that can help you write that job description. And so once you have that, you can move forward with defining the function of each position, so that when you do go out there to talk to people, that you can say to them with confidence, this is what we believe your new job role is going to entail, and here's the steps of how to do it, and here is the person you're going to be reporting to who is going to get you the help and the information you need. Those sorts of things will take care of the fear. It will take care of the fear from a base level, which then will allow you to give them the opportunity to remember that survive and thrive key thing that I talked about.
Yep.
And then finally, if you are going to be laying off, and this is one of the hardest things to do, and I'm going to be as transparent with you and everyone on this call as I would be with any of my team, and that is, we did lay off at Hutchinson, and we have also furloughed, but we still have a strong team. And one of the women that we laid off, I have worked with for more than 20 years. And if you don't think that's a hard thing, working with somebody for 20 years, they're family. Joanna, you and I go back 25 years. We're family,
Yeah.
So if I have to deliver bad news to you, it hurts me.
Right.
And so, the most important thing is to execute layoffs fast. Be honest, be transparent, and do it quick. Because what you don't want is a team that you have left that wonders, am I next? Am I going to lose my job? Am I going to go half-time? Am I only going to be working 2 days a week? And how am I going to pay my bills? Well, you don't want your staff worried about that. You want them thinking about, how can I make sure that this business thrives, and how can I make sure my team is strong? And so executing layoffs fast is important. Immediately after you execute those layoffs, as you're designing this new organization, you need to start thinking about our fourth bullet point, and that is communicate the reorganization.
Right.
This is a hard part, because you'll have people who are scared. You'll also have people who are angry. And then you're going to have people who are questioning your judgment and decisions. They're going to be saying, well, why did Susie go instead of Janet, when Susie's been here 15 years and Janet's only been here 2? And it gets back to the point of looking at your resources so that you have a valid answer to decision the reorganization. Seems like, you got a plan, you're all happy, you're going to execute it, you have to do furloughs or layoffs in the reorganization, you're going to be hurt. But when you go to communicate it, trust me, you're going to be attacked. And so you have to really buffer for it. I remember when we had to lay off 16 people, and that's all we laid off, by the way, in Miraval during the downturn in 2008 was. And I remember my boss saying to me, Michael, as a manager, you have to remember all of this is going to come back on you. And so you need to be prepared for that. And so you should take a day or two off, even though this is the craziest time, this is when you should be here the most. Go away for one night if that's all you can take. But have a little peace, go to the beach, go someplace with a view, and then come back and execute the layoffs so that you are in a space of de-stress, even if it's just a little bit. And so I always try to remind people that before you communicate your reorganization, take some time for you, because you're going to need to be able to breathe, and you're going to need to be able to look like you have it all under control. I remember when I was a nurse in the emergency room, and I knew ambulances were coming, and it was going to be a traumatic experience, and you were going to have family members who were upset and arriving, and all of these other things, and a scared patient, and somebody who might die, and staff that were afraid. That I would always do a deep breathing exercise, like even if it was only 1 or 2 or 3 minutes before I knew that ambulance was going to arrive. Well, you have to think of your new organization and how you're communicating it in the same exact thing. We're under emergency situation. And while it sounds great, it's not. It's actually a really good thing because it puts you in the best mode for survival. So being transparent and open and taking time for yourself before, but then lay out those changes to your staff in every way that you can think of. Let them know the changes that you've made, that their job functions have changed, have a copy of their job duties now, let them know who they're going to be reporting to, and most importantly, let them know that their rules and their roles might change. Because ultimately, when you think, God, I've thought of everything, you're going to find that you haven't.
Right. So it's kind of like this whole thing about being really well prepared, right? You can't, this is not something to rush through. It's really to be well prepared and to anticipate any potential fallout. And to, I'm reminded of that training that we did with Father Miles, right? Communicate with kindness, right? Lead with the truth, keep it simple, right?
Exactly. That I think is, gosh, I'm so glad you took me back to that, because Father Miles was a great teacher to us.
He was a great teacher.
And so, you know, I think that as you do this and as you go through this process, and many people already have, that the communication piece is going to be continuous, and it will be until we get a breather. And I don't think that that breather, it's coming. It's coming because I'm going to spas and I'm seeing that they're busy. I'm calling when I arrive to places, and if I can't get a service, there's usually not anything available. I'm seeing people in the locker room, but there's safe distancing. So I know that business is happening, which is a really great and wonderful thing.
It's true.
And I know that, you know, for all of the places that I was before COVID, with this new reorganization, I have seen locker room people talk nice about massage therapists. I've seen massage therapists plug retail products like never before. Like, I know that used to be like pulling teeth, but now I'm seeing it. I actually had a therapist, I went in for a service. After she got done changing her room, I was checking out at the spa desk, and she came out to the spa desk because she has extra time now and flipping the room over, just to take me over to the shelf to show me the product that she was recommending. And I can't remember the last time a massage therapist did that. An esthetician has done it, but a massage therapist, I was really wowed by it. And so I think there are incredible things happening during this reorg that are really best of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if we keep them, you know, at the center of our attention, it makes the reorganization a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
So the next to the last point, which is rather simple and small, is launch your restructure and adjust. And the launch part is really difficult. And you know, it brings me to the time when I was opening a new spa and Floda had designed it. And she said, Michael, we're going to open the spa this weekend, and everything is almost done. And we've already did our checklist, and the punch list is complete. And I want to walk the spa with you. And I said, okay. And so I went to the spa, and I thought, well, I'll meet her at the front door. And so I looked from the front door, and all the way down the entrance, standing at the very end by the sign, was Clodagh. And so I waved to her, and she waved for me to come to her. And so I went then back to meet with her at the entrance of the spa. And she said to me, here's what I'd like you to do for this walkthrough. She said, I want your eye not to look here at this gate, but I want it to look halfway from the distance down the path, all the way to the door, to the top of the building, to the sky beyond it. I want you to see every detail along the way, but I want your eye to carry that much further. I want you to see everything. And so when we got in the spa, I was overwhelmed by how beautiful it was. It was all set up for our guests. And she was pointing out that there's a shadow over there and it needs a little bit more light. And we need to, I'm focusing over here and seeing that this empty shelf needs a crystal on it or something pretty. You know, what can we do at the spa desk here that can make it more inviting, that will invite someone to do a treatment? And so what we did was we took a scrub and we did the little bowl that the scrub is in, and we put a little sign of what the scrub was that was very beautifully attractive and okay with Clodagh, trust me on that, right? But she gave me a different view of how to look at our operation. So what I say to people is, when you're launching and restructuring and readjusting, say to yourself as you're going through, I don't want to look at what's here in front of me. I want to look at it. Yeah. That was a great lesson that I learned from Clodagh.
Yeah.
And what it does is it enables us to think of things that we thought we had thought of everything, but we might have missed.
Right.
Finally, I think, which is the biggest part, and of course goes back to any business restructuring, is maintaining the culture. And so, you know, for maintaining the culture, it is taking the people that you're left with or the team that you've chosen, because, and I want to say the people that you're left with, okay? Because as a manager, you're not supposed to have favorites, but let's be honest, we do. There's the right hand that we always go to. There's the person who we know we can count on who's going to do the extra stuff. So if you had picked your team, it might have been different than the team that you're left with, depending on all of those things that we had to think of in HR, all of the laws that are out there. And so now with what you're left with, might not always be the people who have supported you. And so the very first thing that I recommend is you get your new team together and you make amends with everyone you have a beef with. And you do it personally first. So you call the people that you have a beef with and you bring them into your office and you say, look, I know you don't think I've been the best manager, but I'm trying to make sure that we all have jobs in the end of this. And this is the plan, and this is the new role, and this is what we're doing. And I know that there are glitches, but I'm doing the best I can. And whatever beef you have with me, get it out. Let me know it now, because we're a team. In order for business to run and thrive and survive, we need to stick together. Yeah. And so I think that when you start breaking down the beefs, it becomes an atmosphere of safety that makes it a little bit easier. And then I think you need to go out and convey that to your staff, because there are therapists out there who don't like the way somebody cleans up a room, or they don't like the way an esthetician puts the products back in the shelves, or they don't like the way that you got room number 6 and I got room number 4 and I like room number 6 better. There are all of these things that cause infighting with the staff, and it would be helpful to get all of those beefs out of the way. And then because of COVID, I don't know, Joanna, thank God we don't have any beefs. You know, we might have in the past, but we sure did get through them, and look how good of friends we are now. So, you know, I love you. Heck. So, you know, then I think where we have to go to, which is where everyone is going to, is that safety comes first. Okay? We got, you know, our beefs out of the way. And before we can even think about culture, we have to think about safety, because, you know, we are in a time where a germ that is out there, a virus that is out there, can kill, or can, you know, put us out of business for 2 weeks, or put us out of commission for 4 or 5 days at the minimum.
Or give us a fine, right?
Exactly. And so there's so many other things to think of, but safety has to come first. Yeah. Then I think we have to think about our guests. And one of the things that I'm reminded of that when I was a general manager at spas, was to remind people that customer service is free. It's really easy to be nice. It doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
And, it gets me back to that original story that I was talking about today, and showing up here to a hotel that I've never been to, that was arranged by my business partner, and meeting a manager at the door who said to me, Mr. Tompkins, I have a space over here in an empty lobby. The sound's not going to be so good. I can get you free internet. We can get you a computer. We can get you set up for this. That's hospitality.
Right.
That's customer service. That's why I'm in this industry. That's why we all are. That's why I love all the members that there are out there in spa and hotel. It's an incredible place, and we're doing great, and we're going to come back. After customer service is free, we need to challenge our staff to bring ideas to improve customer service, innovation, cost cutting, and a positive work environment. Okay? So it's not just your responsibility as a manager during an organization, a reorganization. It's not just the executive team's, responsibility. You need to make it the responsibility of every single employee that you have working there, that it's their job to improve guest service, to improve innovation, to improve cost-cutting measures, and to impact everybody in a positive work environment, enhance where you're all working. And you'd be surprised at the creative things that people can come up with. I remember some of the new ideas that had come up both in post 9/11 and in the Great Recession, when I was associate managing director and then general manager, ended up saving our company tens of thousands of dollars. And that's a good business practice that you can continue into the future. And some of those things came from housekeepers and locker room attendants. And there's nothing better than to be able to reward milestones and improvements in a accolades after they've thought of these new cost-cutting and positive work environment things, as well as innovation. We talked about salt rooms. There's a lot of this what is it called? The no-touch services, biohacking. Sorry about that. Biohacking equipment that's coming out. People can actually look at their spaces when they're only half full and say, hey, this might be a better option in the future. We never really used this room anyway. We could use it for something else. Idea. One of the things that I liked about one of the spas that I went to in Vegas recently was that the locker room attendant told me that people, when they came out of their locker rooms, all dumped into the same area. So it forever, and it's always operated that way. So when you finished your spa treatment, they brought you to an area that dumped you in one spot that then went into your locker room. And he said, so what happened was you came out of the service with your guest while everybody else was coming out of the services with their guest. And they were all being dumped in the same spot, male or female. So you had 4 people as opposed to 1. And he said, so I figured out a whole new flow diagram that we could drop people off and we could get them right back to the locker room, and we never had to pass anybody. Ingenious, safety, innovation, guest service, improving your work environment. All of those things are hugely important. And of course, let's get back to our original definition of reorganization. And that is an overhaul to your company's management and business operations that aim at restoring its profitability. And so the biggest word in that whole sentence, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as somebody who has managed businesses for 25 years, can't be profitable without understanding your finances. Where am I at? What's going on? And so many times we leave that to the spa directors. We leave that to the managers of their areas, the food and beverage director, the communications and marketing director. When really, It has to be transparent to everyone. So you need to share your financials. You need to get with your director of finance, your controller, and you need to say, I can't do this on a monthly basis. I need to do this weekly. I need to look at how many services I sold. What was the most popular one this week? How can we get 5 more? Challenge the staff to get 5 more next week. What is your best flow through service? How can you plug that? Where is my utilization at on my scheduling? How are we turning over the rooms? Where is there the most demand in terms of hours? And talk to the staff about that weekly. Say to your therapist, you know, pre-COVID, we were running an organization straight through on every hour. Post-COVID, I'm noticing that people are actually here in the spa from 2 in the afternoon to 6 in the afternoon when they're not normally here, or there's less of them here. And so I might need you to change your schedule. Look at what we had last week. This is what we have this week. We're going to have to be a little bit more fluid. But really understanding the profitability as an entire entity. My business comes first. My team comes second. My needs come third. That profitability and understanding financials has to come. Absolutely.
Critical. And I think you said something else that was really important, that I really believe, which is that, you know, your job title doesn't limit your creativity, and that good ideas can come from anyone, right? Like that is something that is so important for people to recognize and embrace.
And I have to tell you, Joanna, and I'm not discounting people here, I walk my dog every day because it's very mindful. I get great ideas from my dog. So, you know, you have to really think about everyone. You know, when Carol and Christine and I bought Hutchinson Consulting before we changed the tagline, Bill and Lori Hutchinson had a tagline that your people are your greatest assets. And during a time of reorganization, that's the thing we all have to remember, is that our business is built on our people. And so if it's one thing that I can say and leave everybody with, it would be that tagline. And one other thing that I've learned, and that's ask for help. Yeah. So if you don't know, no matter what position that you're in, find somebody and ask for help. It's easy, it's free, and it'll get you to an organization that will thrive and survive.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Thanks, Michael. That was awesome, as usual. And we do have some questions.
Okay.
Let's see here. I'm just going to look. So someone wants to talk about someone wants you to talk a little bit about working outdoors. Okay.
Working outdoors?
Yeah, like doing treatments outside. That seems to be a challenge, you know, for many, many people. I know in California, I think you're pretty much still exclusively working outdoors. In some areas, they're letting you come back inside.
Yes, I've seen that. And not only that, I've seen really good uses of cabanas in both in Vegas and in Florida, where people have used other areas of the hotel and the spaces. I don't know if whoever's asking the question is confined to we can only work outside. I've also seen treatments in locker rooms where you know how you have a courtyard off the like the hot tub area?
Yes.
I've actually seen that converted to a couples treatment room, which is really cool. It's a really great idea. So yeah, I think that anytime that we can get outside, even if we can work outside, that it's great to be able to take your laptop if you have to be at work. You're less apt to be around people. Fresh air and sunlight is good for killing germs and viruses. I highly recommend that. Yeah.
Right. Okay, good. Good. I think the rest are really just comments. Often spa attendants see the biggest opportunities to improve the process in the spa. Yes, we know that. Yes. Let's see. New markets are emerging alongside right sizing, such as wellness design living communities. That is certainly true. I know you know something about that as well.
Yes, I actually just moved to a wellness community. I like it a lot. I think it's really great. Even when I can't attend, I'm getting reminders about all the little yoga classes or walks that are going on, and so it's a really great thing to see. But it's happening in a lot of different ways. It's also happening in senior living, and people are thinking about. And by the way, Hutchinson has, and this is important. Hutchinson has been able to place people from traditional hotel and spa backgrounds into senior living positions. In fact, somebody in a senior position in spa, we just placed this week, Joanna, you know her well, in New York City, into a new wellness operation. A new senior living wellness operation. So there are these new models of spa that are in senior living and wellness communities that people aren't thinking about, and they're out there, and they are coming out there, and they're continuing to be built. As people are cutting back some of the positions that we've seen, while some may be temp positions, and some may be positions that are, from startup companies. People are looking for startups. So consultants are busy, as are, some of the people who would accept temp positions.
Right. And also, I just think that the way that, I think this is going to be a real time for innovation in our space. And I think the way in which we have always done things is not going to be the way in which it continues to go. And I think this is the time for innovation, especially as people want the services, and it's up to us to reinvent the level of profitability. And I think the other thing, which I also think that you would agree with, is that the return on investment, the ROI in traditional spas was not there before this happened, right? We were already struggling with high overheads and high employee costs. And so in many ways, this is a great opportunity to reset that thinking and to say, we were never going to be able to sustain this, right? Yeah. This is the time to really overhaul our operation and come up with a way to make it more efficient.
Well, there's a few things I want to say about that. The flow through probably was 20 to 35%, if you were lucky.
Right. I was going to say if you were lucky.
Yeah, if you're lucky, that's a good operation. Okay, then you bring in biohacking services, which the flow through on that is 83 to 87%. We're looking at a model of that right now for a franchise, right? And so people are afraid, well, that's going to replace the therapist. Nothing. Listen to me. Nothing will ever replace touch. Okay? Just like when Airbnb and all these other things came out, it was going to ruin hotels. Hotels are not gone. We're still building hotels at crazy rates, right? And so massage is not going to go away, but there may be a hybrid of touch and biohacking equipment that could respond. Okay? And then the most important thing, I think, from a green perspective, because this is Green Spa Network, when you said we're not going to do things the same way, we're not. And the waste is not going to be the same, because this no touch or little touch has made it so that you have to ask for something if you want. And then you're really smart about using it. And so when I asked for a shampoo bottle, I put it in my robe, I took it back to my locker, I put it in my pocket when I left the spa, and I brought it to my hotel room, because the one in my hotel room was low. And then I thought, I'll just use the one that I had left over from the spa. I think that we're going to see a lot less waste than we did before.
Well, I think in general, this is also served as people are mindful of the waste right now. They really are. And that's not a bad thing. I think people have used this opportunity to really take stock of their habits and the ways in which they have done things in the past. And sometimes it takes a shakeup to sort of rethink your approach to things and to recognize that it wasn't working, because people resist change, and the only constant in life is change. Exactly.
And change, when you look it up in the dictionary, as an opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
There we have it. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Sorry for the light.
No worries. Thank you, folks who have attended virtually and on Facebook. Happy to have you. Hope you learned something. And thank you to Hutchinson Consulting for being a really great partner of GSN.
Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.